But I feel like some people might have a really hard time with that. I wonder. And so I'll ask you in the audience, what would you do? If your name was Hannah and you moved to the United States, would you readily introduce yourself as Hannah? And vice versa, if your name was Hannah in the United States and you came to Germany, even for just a short while, would you introduce yourself as Hannah? What if you were here for a long time? Then, would you introduce yourself as Hannah? Or would you still prefer to be called what you've always been called since you were a baby? Hannah. Hey, what's up? Welcome back to ULMX, Universal Language Media Exchange. I'm in the middle of writing the new album. The future of the app will be so that when you download the app, you download it for free. Right now you have to buy the app, it's €4 and you get one album. The future is that you can download different albums and choose what album you want to download. So I'm writing a new album right now. Got to the point where we were picking a name, because when you say like, all right, this is how you say my name is, we had to fill it with a name. So we picked the name Kim because there are men, depends on what culture you're from, and there are women also named Kim. So it's kind of like a neutral choice. And in fact, I think it was, if your name is Martin, how do you pronounce that at Starbucks in the United States? So it was the other way around. And so like, first of all, what's my name in German? That was the most interesting part for me. Like, should I choose the German version of my name or not? And in this video that I saw, someone had said, well, if you're at Starbucks, you should probably just give them the English version of your name, because otherwise they're not going to know how to spell it on the cup. And that's a good point, but how do you actually go about your life? Do you decide to introduce yourself with your original pronunciation or not? And I think it's easier for some people to make that decision than other people. For example, if the spelling is exactly the same and you know when you want to communicate what your name is, that someone's going to spell your name right as long as you use their pronunciation of it, I think it's a pretty easy decision. So, like, I have a bunch of friends with German names. If my name was Kurt, K-U-R-T, or Peter, P-E-T-E-R, I would absolutely identify and take on this German pronunciation. I would say my Name ist Kurt, or my Name ist Peter. I wouldn't try and force the American pronunciation. Generally, when you have the same spelling, I would just take it. But the question is then, do you only do it at Starbucks? Do you only do it with people you don't know? Or do you do it even with people you're planning on being in contact with a lot? Like your colleagues and stuff. Do you decide, I'm going to make it easier for them to pronounce my name and I'm going to use this name? Or do you just do it in situations where you have to fill paperwork out and you have to communicate your birthday and your name and you don't want people to spell it wrong? That's when I think it kind of gets interesting. Like, do you take on the name or not? So it got more complicated for my case because my name in German is outdated. I took Spanish in high school and in middle school, and the Spanish teachers called me Mateo. They took the name and translated it. And I get that. Like, I can't imagine trying to be Matthew in Spain. I don't think it would be easy for them to pronounce it. It's not that easy for Germans to pronounce it. And I have made videos on TH, and somehow not every single German has seen them yet. The TH sound is just tricky. So it doesn't actually sound really right. But I think that Germans do a much better job with it than I would expect Italians or Spanish people, Spaniards, because I just think it's like further away from the Latin sound. The funny thing that happened for me was just looking at like this, it's like, well, my friend Peter, he could just be Peter. And look, that's clearly the same name. We have these like books in the Bible, Peter, John, Matthew, Mark, whatever. Yeah, there's one, Marcus. If your name is Marcus, yeah, you would probably just do Marcus, wouldn't you? 100%. For Matthew, No one names their kid, supposedly, no one names their kid Matthäus anymore. Matthäus would be the book in the Bible, and the name that most people would have that's kind of related to that is Matthias. And like I've heard of the name Matthias before, and that's not my name. My name's Matthew. Do I do it? Do I go for it? I'm still kind of thinking about it, which is why this is kind of my life in Germany, episode 10, you know? I think at some point, I'm just going to get sick of having people pronounce my name wrong, and if my pronunciation and my ability in the German language is good enough, I think I can just pull it off and say my name's Matthäus, and people can be like, yeah, your name is Matthäus. I don't know. I think like at this point, I've only been here for 3 years. If I were introducing myself as Matthäus and then they're like, so where are you from? On like, after like 10 minutes or 5 seconds of talking to me, it's just kind of like, yeah, there's no point. Might as well just out myself as a non-German right away and say my name is Matthew. At some point, I think it's just going to be too annoying, and I'm probably just going to say my name's Matthäus. I know there's at least one person who's not dead whose name is Matthäus, because there's a company called, it's like a construction company, and the guy's name is Matthäus Schmid. Matthäus Schmid Bauunternehmung, or Bauunternehmen, I'm not really sure. Yeah, it's possible, but I don't have a German last name either, so it's kind of pointless for me. Yeah, say my name were Bauer or Schneider, something like that. Then I would already blend in, and then it'd be like, why throw the name Matthew out there? It's just going to ruin everything. If I were in Spain, I would use Mateo. So anyway, let's just go through a few names and work on the pronunciation a little bit. Say your name is, well, actually, you wouldn't be the name Katarina. Yeah, basically you could. It would be Catherine, and your name would be Katharina in German. If your name were Lars, your name would be Lars. Martin, like I said, Martin. Jeremiah, Jeremiah. Although in German, I think it's more often for it to be Jeremias. Pretty much any name that has anything to do with the Bible, you'll probably find a corresponding name in German. But if it's not exactly the same, you might want to keep yours. I'm not exactly sure how you feel about it. But I know, I personally wish I had a corresponding name, like one for one. I think it would be easier. It's kind of annoying sometimes when you have to spell things, but I think a lot of Germans know the name Matthew thanks to Matt Damon. Shout out to Matt Damon. Richard. If your name is Richard, maybe it's hard for you to identify with the name Richard. It's a bit different. But, I mean, really, it's the same name. Just different pronunciation. If your name is Roland, Roland. Some female names. Maria, Maria. That's probably one of the most popular names on the planet. I have very many female colleagues, so I don't really know. Can't think of any names. Teresa? Teresa. Not too bad. Karen. Karin. Kind of a different name, but still. Caroline. Carolina. Annabelle. Annabelle. Not the most common one in the United States, at least. Annie. Annie. Claudia. Claudia. Also not too common in the United States. Claudia. Although it's out there. Hannah. 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 Pretty similar. I don't know how it would be if your name... it depends on your personality, but if your name was Hannah, would you pronounce it Hannah? I certainly would. I would definitely. I want to integrate. I want to blend in. I don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. I would definitely pronounce it Hannah. But I feel like some people might have a really hard time with that. I wonder. And so I'll ask you in the audience, what would you do? If your name was Hannah and you moved to the United States, would you readily introduce yourself as Hannah? And vice versa, if your name was Hannah in the United States and you came to Germany, even for just a short while, would you introduce yourself as Hannah What if you were here for a long time? Then, would you introduce yourself as Hannah, or would you still prefer to be called what you've always been called since you were a baby, Hannah? That is the question for the audience. But just a little bit of musings here, a couple of thoughts that I thought I would share, including my own personal dilemma of whether or not to change my name unofficially, which is, I think, really easy if your spelling is already the same, but when you have a totally different spelling or a translation, it's not like I'm going to legally change the spelling of my name. What if I go back to the United States, I'm going to have to change the spelling back? Changing your name is probably too much of a pain in the butt to bother with that bureaucratic mess. But unofficially changing my name, people with the same spelling, I think they have it a lot easier. It's kind of just it's a philosophical question at that point. Pronunciation, really. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you're wondering how to pronounce your name in English or vice versa, then leave that in the comments below too. We can certainly try and answer that in a future video. Sounds like fun. Alright, see you next time. ULMX from Ulm, Universal Language Media Exchange. Peace.
Dieses Video wurde stolz präsentiert von der ULMX-App, verfügbar im App Store für iOS-Geräte. Android-Benutzer und diejenigen, die das Spiel ausprobieren möchten, können den kostenlosen Podcast auf iTunes und Spotify herunterladen. Bitte beim Podcast nicht vergessen, den Pausenknopf zu drücken. Die App pausiert übrigens automatisch für dich, damit du gleichzeitig anderswo produktiv sein kannst.
Diese Folge ist perfekt geeignet fürs erste Treffen mit einem neuen Kollegen. This episode is perfectly suited for your first meeting with a new colleague. Englisch für Guten Tag, Herr Professor. Ich bin der neue Student aus Deutschland ist Good afternoon, Professor. I'm the new student from Germany. Guten Tag, Herr Professor. Ich bin der neue Student aus Deutschland.
Good afternoon, Professor. I'm the new student from Germany.
Good afternoon, Professor. I'm the new student from Germany.
Entschuldigung.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Entschuldigung.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Guten Tag, Herr Professor. Ich bin der neue Student aus Deutschland.
Good afternoon, Professor. I'm the new student from Germany.
Good afternoon, Professor. I'm the new student from Germany.
Englisch für Störe ich ist Am I interrupting? Störe ich?
Am I interrupting?
Am I interrupting?
Entschuldigung, störe ich?
Excuse me. Am I interrupting?
Excuse me. Am I interrupting?
Ich wollte nicht stören.
I didn't want to interrupt.
I didn't want to interrupt.
Entschuldigung, störe ich?
Excuse me. Am I interrupting?
Excuse me. Am I interrupting?